Do you think it's a good decision?
I think it's a good decision. One, it reflects that the Prime Minister has selected someone that he has confidence in. Because he had appointed Dr. Jaishankar, the Foreign Secretary, replacing the earlier one before her tenure was over. And then he gave him a year's extension as Foreign Secretary. So that was a clear signal that he had confidence in him and appreciated his work as Foreign Secretary. And I think, second, it is a recognition of the fact that the global situation is in flux. And India is going to face major challenges in the coming period. And the challenges that India will face will be with all the three major powers in the world, the United States, Russia, and China. With the US, we have a growing relationship, growing political and strategic convergence, a growing economic relationship, but we have tremendous trade frictions. In the economic dimension of the relationship, there is a lot of negativity. There are indications that the US may withdraw GSP benefits from India. And second, the US general tendency is that when they support a country, they expect that when they take certain decisions based on their own domestic politics, they expect others to fall in line. And India is not going to be able to do that.
Yes.
So that's one set of challenges India would face. Secondly, with Russia, we have a very strong defense partnership, a legacy relationship. We have more than 60% of our defense inventory of Russian origin. But Russia now has a growing relationship with China. It is doing more and more with Pakistan, including in defense. When Pulwama happened, for example, at that time, the statements that came out from Russia did not position Russia entirely on the side of India. They spoke of increasing counter-terrorism cooperation with both India and Pakistan. So that's a second relationship.
Sell weapons to Pakistan as well.
And they're selling weapons to Pakistan. So that's a second dimension we have to deal with. And third, China, whose GDP is 5 times India's, military expenditure is 4 times India's. There are elements of cooperation, but essentially an adversarial relationship. And China now has an increasing presence in South Asia, in the Indian Ocean, in the region around us. So that is another relationship that has to be handled with care. So the Indian foreign policy in the coming 5 years will require a lot of flexibility, nimble-footedness, challenges to face. And so I think to that extent it's good to have a professional that the Prime Minister has confidence in to steer Indian choices as we navigate this.
Right. Michael Kugelman, many say that the Prime Minister has borrowed from the American model where presidents get technocrats sometimes as secretaries for different departments, which is a parallel to the Indian ministries. And in that sense, S. Jaishankar's induction is a forward-thinking choice.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I agree with Ambassador Singh. I think that this is a very good choice. And it clearly highlights the importance that this Modi 2.0 government accords to foreign policy, that you essentially bring in, one of India's most distinguished diplomats to serve in that role. And he's someone who is very well respected in many key capitals, including here in Washington, where he was ambassador at one point. So I think it's a good choice. I think it portends well for the direction that India wants to take its foreign policy. But as Ambassador Singh noted, there are tremendous numbers of challenges for India. I do think it's going to try to maintain a level of continuity in its foreign policy compared to the first Modi administration. But still, it is going to be a challenge given all these shocks happening in the world, particularly as, for instance, the U.S. and Iran have their tensions that continue to worsen. We can't rule out a war. Clearly, something like that would have significant implications for India.
Lawrence Sellin, the China challenge is something that remains. The fact that the Taiwanese representative was not invited for the swearing-in ceremony, the fact that no one from the Tibetan government in exile was invited for the swearing-in ceremony, these are all indications and very clear concessions, wouldn't you say, to Beijing from the government of India?
Yes, I would say that there are concessions by the Indian government to China, but I think there are a number of foreign policy areas where the United States and China can cooperate. The United States and India can cooperate. One of them is China. I suspect that Prime Minister Modi's foreign policy emphasis will be on China, and people need to recognize the China-Pakistan axis, and that this alliance is determined to dominate South Asia both economically and militarily. But China cannot achieve that without Pakistan. China's Belt and Road Initiative cannot succeed if the China-Pakistan economic corridor fails. So it is possible for pressure to be brought to bear on Pakistan in its two main pain points, which is its economy and ethnic separatism. In other words, you could ask for more economic and financial sanctions against Pakistan. Support could be given to the Pashtun Talafuz movement. More importantly, support could be given to the Baluchistan independence movement with the aim of creating an independent, secular, and nuclear-free Baluchistan, which could have at least three different positive effects. Would give Afghanistan a friendly neighbor and access to the sea. It could eliminate a large number of extremists and terrorists maintained by Pakistan inside Baluchistan. And finally, it could halt Chinese hegemony in South Asia.
Right. We have breaking news coming in. I'm going to request you to stay with us. A major decision by the Modi government on day one. This is information coming through our sources. The Prime Minister Kisan scheme has now been extended to all farmers. So a total of 15 crore farmers and their families will benefit from this scheme. Remember, the agrarian crisis has been at the center of the political discourse for months now. 3 state elections were won, according to experts, by promises made to farmers. The agrarian distress has been a matter of concern for the government, and now one among the first decisions that this government has taken is to extend the Prime Minister Kisan scheme to all farmers, which will benefit a total of 15 crore farmers across the country. Of course, a bigger solution will have to be found as most governments, state governments at least, resort to farm loan waivers. That remains one of the challenges. We'll take it up later. But we're talking about foreign policy and what this government should and should not be doing. We're looking at the economic figures. And the GDP figures do not look very good. The unemployment data, finally, after much debate, is out. 45-year low. So with the trade war going in and these figures coming in, they do not augur very well for what lies ahead in terms of the economy. And then we have this US-China confrontation. Do you think that India will be able to practice the strategic autonomy that Prime Minister Modi often talks about?
I think the US-China trade conflict at the moment certainly creates also opportunity for India. At one level, there are risks, because people have suggested that with the trade friction, if it builds up, global GDP might come down. But that having been said, if the present global value chain is disrupted and production in China geared to the world market, geared to the United States, that is somewhat disrupted, then there will be opportunity for India and other countries. Already there is indication that some investment has moved away from China to Vietnam. So there is a possibility of new investment also happening in India, keeping in mind the new trade patterns that will emerge. But the key thing is that to enable that, we have to ensure that manufacturing in India is cost-effective and efficient. So a lot of work has to be done in India in terms of infrastructure, in terms of facilitation of manufacturing, in terms of reducing costs, because our essential problem is that exports from India are not competitive in terms of costs. So the government has to work to create the ecosystem to enable them to be competitive. And once that starts happening, then of course on that basis, India would perhaps need to look once again at the various trade agreements that it can use to enhance the market space for Indian products. And that would be the way to go.
Michael Kugelman, in one of his speeches, the Prime Minister said that chemistry plays a bigger role than arithmetic, and that perhaps holds true for diplomatic dealings as well. The fact that this Prime Minister has engaged extensively with leaders across the world, and he's come back for a second term. He's more or less on good terms with President Donald Trump. He's worked with Shinzo Abe very closely. India and Japan have now signed a new deal on Sri Lanka. The Chinese president, the Russian president, do you believe that this continuity is going to help Modi to push forth India's agenda?
Well, I think so. I know that Modi puts a premium on this idea of personal diplomacy. And this is something that we saw quite often, particularly early on in its first term, when he became seemingly very close to many top leaders. And it's actually quite striking that Modi he developed quite a good relationship with some of the most polarizing world leaders in the world, Trump, Putin, Netanyahu, and yet clearly it hasn't harmed his credibility or his popularity overseas. I do think that when he started doing this early in his first term, I think that part of it was a brand management issue. Of course, when he took office in 2014, there were a number of governments that were uncomfortable with him because of his association with the Gujarat riots. Clearly, things have changed now. I do think he is going to continue this brand of personal diplomacy that he's really been able to master. But at the same time, I think he's going to, want to focus a bit less on the pageantry element of it and more of the actual getting things done angle. And we saw that he was able to achieve quite a few deals, important deals, using his own personal diplomacy during his last term, whether we're talking about a big infrastructure deal with the UAE or, oil exploration deal with Vietnam. These serve important needs for India, infrastructure, energy, and the like. And I think we're going to see more of that at this point. But more broadly, I think that what we're going to see from this government is a desire to keep expanding India's role on the world stage so that it is taken increasingly more seriously as a bona fide, veritable rising power. So I do think that we're going to see this government try to continue to gain access to key global forums. It did very well in Modi's last term. Getting into the NSC, as difficult as that will be, I think will be the nuclear suppliers group. The NSC will be a major objective as well.
Right. We're looking at images from the cabinet briefing, the first by this government, and that's Narendra Singh Tomar, the new Minister of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare, and that is where the big decision is coming from. Let's try and listen into what he's saying.
बनने के पश्चात आज पहली मंत्रिपरिषद की बैठक प्रधानमंत्री जी की अध्यक्षता में संपन्न हुई। पिछली सरकार के दौरान भी आप सबके ध्यान में है कि प्रधानमंत्री जी का ध्यान कृषि क्षेत्र पर काफी गंभीरता से रहा है और प्रधानमंत्री जी ने उस समय भी यह कहा था कि किसान की आमदनी 5 वर्ष में दोगुनी करने का प्रयास हम करेंगे और इसलिए पिछले दिनों कृषि का उत्पादन बढ़े, उत्पादकता बढ़े, इस दिशा में प्रयत्न हुआ। फसल की लागत का 1.5 गुना समर्थन मूल्य किसान को मिले, यह सुनिश्चित मोदी जी की सरकार ने किया। सिंचाई की सुविधाएं बढ़ाई, खाद बीज की पर्याप्त मात्रा में समय पर उपलब्धता हो, यह भी सुनिश्चित किया और खरीद समर्थन मूल्य पर अधिक से अधिक हो, इसके लिए सब राज्यों को प्रोत्साहित भी किया। और इसी के साथ साथ प्रधानमंत्री जी को यह लगता था कि कृषि का क्षेत्र मुनाफे का क्षेत्र बनना चाहिए, इसलिए सरकार के खजाने की राशि किसी न किसी योजना के माध्यम से किसान की जेब तक पहुंचे। इसलिए पिछले दिनों पीएम किसान सम्मान योजना सृजित की गई और उस योजना में 6,000 रुपया प्रति वर्ष लघु और सीमांत किसान जो 2 हेक्टेयर से कम जोत वाले हैं, इनको दिया जाए, यह सुनिश्चित हुआ। बहुत सारे राज्यों ने उसमें सूचियां नहीं भेजी, तो उन राज्यों को तो यह नहीं मिला, लेकिन 3 करोड़ से अधिक किसानों के खाते में इस योजना के माध्यम से पैसा पहुंच गया। बीच बीच में यह बात भी आती थी कि किसानों में वर्गीकरण नहीं होना चाहिए, किसान माने किसान है, तो सभी किसानों को ये राशि सहायता के रूप में दी जानी चाहिए। तो अभी तक जो प्रावधान था, उस प्रावधान के अंतर्गत 12.5 करोड़ किसान इस योजना के अंतर्गत कवर होते थे। 2 करोड़ किसान ऐसे थे जो अभी इस योजना से छूट रहे थे। जो 2 हेक्टेयर तक का बंधन आज मंत्रिपरिषद ने समाप्त कर दिया है। अब सभी किसान इस योजना में पात्र होंगे। 2 करोड़ किसान और जुड़ जाएंगे तो यह संख्या 14.5 करोड़ हो जाएगी। अभी तक सरकार का 75,000 करोड़ रुपया इसमें लगता था। अब 12,000 करोड़ रुपया और अतिरिक्त भार आएगा। ऐसे कुल मिला के 87,000 करोड़ रुपया अब इस योजना के अंतर्गत किसानों को दिया जाएगा। मैं समझता हूं पहली मंत्रिपरिषद और पहली मंत्रिपरिषद में किसानों के हित का यह निर्णय बहुत ही स्वागत योग्य है। सामान्य तौर पर सरकारें जब चुनाव का समय होता है तो इस प्रकार के निर्णय करती हैं, लेकिन मंत्रिपरिषद का यह निर्णय मोदी जी की किसानों के प्रति प्रतिबद्धता को प्रकट करता है और यह भी सिद्ध करता है कि मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में चल रही सरकार सिर्फ चुनाव और वोट लेने के लिए सरकार नहीं है। यह सरकार वास्तव में किसानों की माली हालत सुधारना चाहती है। एक दूसरा निर्णय भी आज कैबिनेट में हुआ, वो प्रधानमंत्री किसान पेंशन योजना। किसान पेंशन योजना के अंतर्गत लगभग ऐसे 12-13 करोड़ लोग हैं जो इस योजना में कवर होंगे, लेकिन पहले चरण में 5 करोड़ लोगों तक यह योजना पहुंचे और ये हम लोगों ने लक्ष्य रखा है। और इस योजना में 18 से 40 वर्ष तक की आयु के किसान ज्वाइन कर सकेंगे और इस योजना के अंतर्गत जो लोग ज्वाइन करेंगे उनको 60 वर्ष पूरी करने के पश्चात 3,000 रुपया मासिक पेंशन प्राप्त होगी। यदि किसान की मृत्यु हो जाती है तो उसके जो उत्तराधिकारी उनकी पत्नी होंगी उनको 50% इस योजना का लाभ मिलेगा। इस योजना में लगभग 10,000 करोड़ रुपया खर्च आएगा और क्योंकि जब एक व्यक्ति अपना अंशदान जमा करेगा, जैसे 18 साल में जिसने ज्वाइन की इस योजना को, तो उसे 55 रुपए मासिक देना होंगे।
Narendra Singh Tomar, Agriculture Minister, sharing with the press the first decision taken by the Modi cabinet after the first meeting for farmers of India. But we are talking about foreign policy on the show and we have very little time left. So let me take closing comments. Ambassador Singh, the 3 top things that this government needs to focus on.
So I think aside from the focus on the 3 major powers, the government would also need to focus on relations with the neighbors. Because the relationship with Pakistan, whether you continue the policy of not talking or some kind of engagement, calibrated engagement, that's a key decision that the government would need to take to see how it maximizes India's foreign policy interest. And the other neighbors, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Maldives, to make sure that India's interests are protected. And I think going beyond that in the extended neighborhood, there's a lot of turmoil in the Gulf. And we have a significant presence of Indian origin diaspora, relations between the Gulf countries and Iran, US pressure on Iran, expectations from India. How does India deal with that challenge? And of course, the broader challenge of the Indo-Pacific.
Indeed. Lawrence, it's going to be a tricky one to engage with China and yet at the same time try to counter it on very many issues that the government of India deals with.
Well, yes, indeed, you're exactly right. But I think a major challenge for India is dealing with what I said is the alliance between China and Pakistan, especially managing the situation after the United States withdraws from Afghanistan and the consequences of that. So I think the U.S.-Indian relationship is going to be even more important if the United States withdraws from Afghanistan in the near future.
Right. Closing comments, Michael Kugelman.
I think it's significant that Modi's first foreign visit in his second term will be to Maldives, and I think that accentuates the importance of India trying to improve its relations with its smaller neighbors other than Pakistan. If you set Pakistan aside for a while, that's one thing. The other thing, the relationship with the U.S. is at a critical point. The defense side really has grown, but the commercial side of the relationship has always been the Achilles heel. But typically, the two sides have been able to get around that and just accentuate the security partnership. But now, on the trade side, things are getting pretty serious. And I think that if those issues are not addressed, you have to worry about how far this relationship could really go to be a truly strategic partnership. So I imagine that the Indian government will look at trying to focus on